Hey everybody. Culture and Trek. Are we living in the big pivot? Hang on to that thought. Time for some big picturing dot connecting today on Trekland Tuesdays Live with me, Dr. Trek. I'm Larry Nemecek, coming right here from the heart of Trekland, right through Portal 47. And for the second week in a row, we're on Facebook and what's those other things? Twitch and YouTube both. I hope. We'll see. There we are. Yay. Okay. Different setup, different text, different everything, but still the same. We are still coming at you from the heart of Trekland for the big picture, clarity, and sanity that you can trust in everything Star Trek. And yes, I've been thinking, culture and Trek both. Are we living through a big pivot? We're going to connect some dots today, one of those episodes, from two or three events and statements and conditions that you all heard about in the last few weeks, but it just dawned on me the last couple of days, there might be a bigger picture here going to keep our finger on the pulse. Now look, if you're new to Trekland Tuesdays Live, welcome, welcome, welcome. Once again, we do this every week about this time on Tuesday afternoon. It'll be up later, and so hello to everybody watching later. But right now, if you're live, we're going to be answering questions live after the break, okay, after the sermonette. We'll also take a look at the Parrot Analytics streaming ratings for the for the non-broadcast, for the digital onlys and the digital origination programs. There's news with Parrot this week. Nothing to do with Star Trek, but there's news with Parrot, so hang on for that. But yes, you can jump in here with the questions now, get all your howdy-doos and hellos out of the way, but I won't. Listen to me, Twitch kids. I won't be answering questions until after the break, okay? After our topic today, which is a good one. And I also want to say right now, I've got a new printer, so I can really say, finally, a nice shout-out hello to all of our TTL Club members, right? Blaze K and Lawrence Todd, and Rusty Harrell, Jared Cooper, Mr. Vestek, Halbjorn, and Jalen Bullock. They are members of our Live Wires. What am I talking about? Thank you guys for all your support and this shout-out. And yes, the new links I owe all of you Live Wires. Hey, they're just doing my Patreon, $5 or $10 a month through Patreon, the platform that lets you support creatives across the board, everything from poets to filmmakers to composers, ongoing or project by project. Patreon.com/Tuesdays Live for moi. But really, seriously, thank you guys. It's growing. It's actually starting to grow. You can starting to see the results here finally. We're here on 3 platforms, multi-streaming. So, and it's 156, episode 156 of the Trek Files. I've missed all but 2 weeks in 2.5 years. So there you go. Hey, big picture time. Culture and Trek. Are we living in a big pivot? I'm talking about the kind of thing that happens in a culture shock that we're in right now, the pandemic. I know. I'm tired of talking about it too. We've been talking about it since early March, especially affecting fandom. We know that the outside culture, the ripples are affecting us, obviously. Fandom is just a mere niche. Star Trek fandom is just a mere niche of fandom in pop culture. So yeah, on some hand, we're tired of talking about it, but guys, we're just, reopen if you want to, but the virus is going to have another thing to say about it, which we don't even know right now. It's amazing to politicize a virus, but some people see opportunity in that. And some people are just acting on their human frustrations. I get it. I worry that this generation was the generation that would have had to deal with the Depression and World War II, but that's a moot point right now. We are where we are. We are being affected by this. And in the same way, in my own memory, I think about the 9/11. Flashpoint trauma. We always talk about that, the 5 stages of grief, the 5 stages of trauma or abuse. And I'm not going to list them all there, but when they go through the things of shock, disbelief, anger, healing, those kind of things. And even though it's a slow motion rolling effect here, I think the shock of a lockdown, the shock of how daily life would change under the pandemic, that took a few days and weeks. And I'm going to say it ain't there yet. This whole thing about reopening in 2 and 3 months is poppycock. I just hope we don't lose too many folks. It'd be lovely to be wrong here, and I sure ain't an epidemiologist. I'm not even a lawyer. But I'm trying to go with what most of the smart people are saying, which seems to be a lost art for a chunk of our population. And I just get it that we're going to be under a rolling effect. Now, bringing it back to Trek and bringing it back to culture, yes, we're talking about lost conventions. Yes, we're talking about fandom going virtual. We've talked about that here in weeks past. I invite you to go back and look at the archive. It's especially archived on Facebook, but we're going to get the archive built up on YouTube too. Look at some of the recent events we're dealing with, but they're as one-offs, okay? What I mean is, yes, we obviously our Trek shows, our Trek series, as well as all TV production, people are scrambling. The networks, the organized channels, they're all scrambling to figure out how to make normal life look. What does a fall premiere look like? As if a fall premiere was even a thing anymore. Think about this. First of all, we get, yay, the Pike Show, Strange New Worlds. First Anson Mount, later on Akiva Goldsman, backing that up in interviews. And we've talked about this here in the minute aspect, right? For everyone who's been clamoring for this, that yes, Star Trek Strange New Worlds looks to be a return to quote-unquote classic Star Trek, which you might interpret as being more episodic, or at least low-running arcs, but not in your face. That's the moment. That's the meme and the message every week. More of a standalone, singly identifiable episodic Star Trek. And more futuristic optimism. Now, that's been a bumper sticker cry for a lot of people since the beginning of Discovery. And the pushback to that has rather been, and not that I can blame people who are trying to keep this alive and on the air, make it commercially viable. But that's the landscape of TV. If your touchstones are Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad, go down the list, then that's the tonal set. And the difference with Star Trek there is, as we've said many times, well, yes, everybody's broken, but they all get healed by the end. That's the light at the end of the tunnel approach. Yes, it's all really dark here. I know, but for 6 episodes? No. But that's the perceived market. And a lot of us were saying, yes, but that's what will make Star Trek different. If you go there, you can be the revolutionary show that is the one that leads the stampede away from the dystopian isms of all the current program, or a lot of the current programming. Well, that's in the mix. A lot of other drama going down besides that, too. We have Picard, which we're all hopeful to be hopeful. Except even then, or at least I knew, Picard is not the show that Discovery is. It's different focus. It's much more personal. It's not trying to be epic at all. Well, epic in some ways. But it is. The producers have said, it's a character show versus an adventure show. Picard to Discovery. And the tone did lighten up some. Still not as much. And a lot of people were disappointed, even with the expectation setting that I tried to do, much less CBS and other people. But still very much there, and a lot of good to grasp onto in a lot of moments. And yet here we go. And I've kidded so much with all the animated series in the mix with Section 31, for all those in the early days of Discovery who were really, I'm not making fun of this at all. I am not belittling the folks who said, I just want my Adventure of the Week positive outlook Star Trek back. I hear you. There might have been a time when some folks that needed to hear that may have thought that was a little Pollyanna-ish and out of touch. I was trying to say, just knowing the way Hollywood is, that let 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 off-topic, dystopian, whatever, darker lens, if you want, Let 4 or 5 or 6 of those, let them get those out of their system. And then after a while, after a few pendulum swings, a bright, happy show would seem like a radical idea. Now, I don't know if that's what's happening here. That was the joke. That was the fun thing. That may have had a grain of truth to it just in its own self. But look at this. Then we have Discovery Season 3 making a big tonal shift, as Jonathan himself said. Very little's been out of it. They've been having to sit on it and have the delays of the coronavirus here. It's amazing watching Jeff Russo talk about all the orchestra instruments recording singly. A lot more pain, but we've got the technology to do it. They can mix and alter audio and get rid of dead noise, room tone for each end of all 40 instruments or whatever they've got. It's going to get here sooner than later, or later than sooner, I guess I should say. But it's coming, and we'll finally see what this big tonal shift means. Running 930 years in the future, I love the precision there. That's going to be a tonal shift. But even then, more to not what Discovery was born with, and its mangled birth, its troubled birth from having so many different parents. But maybe now it's finally, not only just settling in for its own sake into something that makes sense for what everybody wants for that series, but a big tonal shift, which seems to me the first 1 or 2 seasons have been about trauma and war, and this obviously looks desolate. There's obviously conflict. There's obviously some aliens, very familiar aliens, running around with new weapons, shooting at people. No, it's not Pollyanna, but we'll see. It's a big tonal shift. Now, here's what is making me lace all these points up in a slightly different way and make me think. I'm used to not paying much attention to the movie side talk. I'm trying to get into habit for the first time in years, since we've had the big CBS Viacom CBS remarriage, the reconciliation, and there's the baby steps, maybe starting to accelerate a little bit about what that looks. And yes, maybe Josh Hawley's movie is going. Simon Pegg, recently, has never been one to shy away from feeling comfortable in his own skin about talking about such things and speculating. He's no dummy. He knows that gets picked up instantly. There were 2 or 3 making the rounds where his latest round of advice was about maybe Star Trek's next movie should go small. Maybe it's not a sign of weakness not to mimic on the cinema side the MCU, the Marvel Universe. Maybe, he's saying, just maybe, I can do the French here, narration. No, he's saying maybe that Star Trek is a little more niche than the Marvel movies. Now, I could step back and say that the Marvel movies were niche until there was a definite plan put together and some definite hits, and something struck the main movie-going public as so old it's new. It's a tone that I call, that's just another comic book movie. But I digress. That's what's popular right now. What he's stumbling into, the fact is that there may be a lot of Star Trek fans who enjoy them, but they don't live their life around them, Marvel movies. They don't need their Star Trek to be the same as a Marvel. Just the biggest thing they want maybe is franchise pride. They don't want to be shamed off the screen. But to have something that lives up to the Star Trek promise, which is not what Marvel and DC deliver. It's not what Star Wars even delivers. All these made-up competitions are silly. Simon's actually saying, I think Star Trek is just a bit more niche. Now, I hope he's not damning with faint praise there. Is Star Trek a boutique franchise? Star Trek was the franchise. Yes, I know Doctor Who is older. It took the Americans to show the Brits how to market it, okay? I'm just saying. So Simon Pegg says, according to this interview, which, by the way, whatever site I'm reading this in, I love how the state of journalism on the web, if you're going to we all know how incestuous web journalism, in the old days, when we picked up an Associated Press story, of which we were a member, in print, and did our own story from it, we would always say, from Staff and Wire reports. Okay, we would take off the AP branding, we would take off the AP byline for sure, but we would at least say from Staff and Wire reports. And then at the bottom, we would say You know, transcript reporters Larry Nemecek added to this story. Whatever. That was our style. We didn't try to fool people, but we didn't overly give credit away. At least in the web stories. Sometimes you're reading along, and you wake up and there's 15 headlines in your inbox, and you go, "Wow, this is a huge story." No, it was one story, and 15 people just copied it, ran with it, slapped one or two sentences on it, maybe more than that. And those are legit places, and this is a legit source. Sorry for this sidebar on journalism. What got me was this entire Simon Pegg conversation with a lot of added commentary. I kept wondering what rule of thumb, guys. Whatever you're doing, try to go back to the original source just to make sure. A lot of well-intentioned folks, not the clickbaiters, but a lot of well-intentioned sites and writers do occasionally give you a different tone than what you might glean yourself from reading the original words. Just saying. Or the original video, if you could even get to that, if you have time for video. What happens here is I read. I'm about to think they don't give you even a link to the original. And finally, the last sentence. This comes to us from Collider. It's like, really? Make you read the whole thing and then put it in print? Like, just ignore it. Just don't even, give them the time of day. That's less insulting than putting it in the last line. But I digress. Simon Pegg is saying, the obvious thing would be to not go for that massive spectacle, to go for something a little bit more restrained in the vein of the original series. Yes, that would be a brilliant thing to do, and I'm sure it's been discussed. You just specialize a bit more. Well, it's a different crop of people. The folks in charge have migrated. I get that. But look, it's only taken 14 years to finally get back to this. Yes, spend the money. Make Star Trek do what it can do. But look at Wrath of Khan in $1982, biggest opening weekend box office of the moment there. And this was I can't do math anymore, 5 years after Star Wars. Star Wars, the movie I went to see then, was called Star Wars. And 2 years after Empire Strikes Back. Star Wars was doing fine competing. It didn't go mega, but it didn't need to. But what Simon's talking about here, what all three of these occasions talking about, the scope for the intentions for Strange New World, the pivot for Discovery, and what Simon Pegg is talking, now he's talking about a prescription for keeping a movie franchise alive, whether or not he's got a job in it or not, but he cares. He cares. He'd like to have a job. He'd like for it to be the Kelvin crew. But we'll see. We'll see what that means. We obviously want Star Trek to be doing well on the big screen, however it needs, whatever that looks like, whatever that prescription is. And obviously, especially now that the marriage has been reconciled, the property Star Trek is going to be on the big screen some way, somehow. It's a matter of when and what that looks like. But as for right now, this moment in time, Simon Pegg's talking about numbers there. But what about tone? Yes, it could be that Pike is just, that Strange New Worlds is just the seventh show, as I was kind of kidding about. Only half kiddingly, though, half serious. Yes, Discovery is pivoting. Yes, a more niche appeal of Star Trek that's not just simply all about pew-pew. Is there something bigger going on here? Could this be corona-linked? Is some of the effect that we're starting to see from the virus pandemic and our reaction to it, that the virus didn't do this, this is all about us, baby. This isn't about the virus. Is the human response to the virus, culturally, socially, legally, emotionally, going to be a retrench? There was a lot of retrenchment after 9/11. People got all nesty into their home. Those who could still afford homes, because we hadn't had the crash yet. But for 6 or 7 years there, a lot of folks turned to their homes, got homes. HGTV became a thing. We got very nesty. It was a recognized phenomenon. There was a little bit of outward fear. We got crazy with the war on terror. But emotionally, there was a lot of it. Now, also emotionally, I mean, from Star Trek Enterprise on down, our storytelling went dark. The bright primary colors of the Friends palette of the 90s. Just look at the cinematography. This bland, this dystopian, this sun-drenched, bleached out look that all the cinematographers are doing it. It was really starting to reflect the mood, the somber, pragmatic, no frills mood. Now we've come along. It will be 20 years in 18 months since 9/11. I know, right? So yeah, I mean, things aren't obviously locked in the same, but that is an effect that is still with us and is still affecting. Unless a few folks decide to hop up and brighten their storytelling, literally in look and figuratively in tone. Now look, cultural traumas have interesting side effects. The other cultural trauma we go back to, stock market crash, was huge. You could point to a day, the 1929 crash. It was Black Thursday and Black Friday and Black Monday, and it was a rolling mess. And then it was kind of hanging in the air, and people knew that was a bad thing. And no one knew what would happen or what would happen, what would the outcomes be? What would the domino effect be? And had a certain president and a certain Congress done something, within 3 years, maybe the depths of the Depression wouldn't have been so bad. And maybe FDR's landslide wouldn't have been a landslide. Might still have won. Might still have lost if people had reacted. But no one did, and things got worse and worse, and it was a slow-rolling trauma. Pearl Harbor, bang, lightning bolt. Pearl Harbor, JFK, 9/11, lightning bolts. Stock market crash, 2008 crash, pandemic, are rolling traumas. And I say that because the rolling trauma, look at the depths of the Depression. In the middle of that, did we go all somber in our culture, arts, and outlook? Some. Maybe the novel did. But for the mass entertainment, we got Busby Berkeley. We got tap dancing chorus line girls. We got, until it was a meme, until it was a trope, until it was overdone and finally ran its course. But we had the laudy-gaudy body 42nd Street effect. And I mean body. Dancing girls for forever. And I don't mean lewd ones. I mean crazy costumes. It was the Ziegfeld Follies girls on steroids, on screens for a nickel. That doesn't seem to reflect a crashing mentality. Now, things got serious as hell after Pearl Harbor. Still had comedies, but they were all dark and twingy and very reflective comedies, right? I'm just saying. Those are some of the markers and some of the barometers that we can look at when we know, especially in hindsight. But sometimes you know when you're in the middle of it. We can tell currently, if not after the fact, about the cultural shifts that happen with big social events. And I know we've been talking about the damn pandemic since March. It's kind of here. And if nothing else, we can, get out of our ruts, watch those blinders. Watch those blinders about how our life today is affecting all the different age levels, not just where we live, but even within our fandom with Star Trek, how it's affecting different levels. I'm really, really, really trying to, as always, reach out to those who don't look like me. Usually people say that for people of color. I'm talking about our newer fans, our younger fans, and I hope everyone's taking care of them. So I'm very, very especially proud, and hey, I'll do it special. I'm very proud of this little sucker. Yay, new printer. Finally got this done. Life Support Live on Saturdays midday across all 3 channels. Interactive Life Support Live with the great Dr. Ali Matu. Dr. Trek, Dr. Ali, one of us is a real doctor. And we tackle a different, let's say mental health. It's not all heavy duty. We're very much still geeking along with Trek. Looking at Trek and mental health and what we can learn and also what we can pull out and enjoy. But that's the times we're in now. A lot of people are hurting different ways. And that manifests itself in a different way. Our culture, our arts are here to both distract and reflect. We got our Busby Berkeleys. We've got our Sturm and Drang movies and TV shows. In the case of Star Trek, we've had both. We've had third season Enterprise, and now we may get Strange New Worlds Pike. It's exciting. I just wonder if this is all just time, or if it's all reflecting back. And what Star Trek looks like on the big screen, wouldn't it be interesting if somewhere between the pandemic and the pendulum swing of the first movies, which have been, 11 years ago this summer premiered, but first were conceptualized in 2016. So we'll be coming up on 15 years since the original thought process behind the Kelvin movies. That's plenty of time in Hollywood talk for a pendulum swing. It's plenty of time in culture talk for a cultural shift. Pandemic will do it. No matter where you are personally or regionally with the pandemic, it'll do it. I'm just saying, we got 3 big dots here. I'm trying to connect them, see if they make sense. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about whatever else you want to talk about here after the break. I just want to thank again, though, our Patreon folks before we do that. Thanks again, Patreon guys and gals. Our TTL Club and our Live Wireless. Thank you so much, guys, for helping out. And again, if you want to help out, too, in a small way, $5, $10, it's once a month. It's the Patreon system. I'm just using it. Patreon.com/Trekland Live is the thing. And hey, before we go, a quick shout out. I got to tell you a little bit about Life Support Live, coming up every Saturday here with Ali Matu. He's the real doctor. Although Ali will say, watch us both, and we'll leave it for you to decide who the real doctor is. But look across YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. Where you're watching me right now, you can watch Life Support Live. And you can chat in, and you can call in on Skype Cam. Life Support Host Live. Life Support Live Host, I should say. That's that. And guys, this Friday, new thing for Corona times, Non-Fiction Friday. Yep. 3 o'clock Pacific. It's a Zoom meeting. It's very laid back. We've had some surprise folks drop in. David Gerald and Doug Drexler have both dropped in recent weeks. We're looking at the classic nonfiction books in this Trek book meetup because no one else ever does. And this week's classic, I don't even think of this as an old book. It'll be 30 years old next year. Star Trek The Next Generation's Technical Manual by our good friends Mike and Rick. I mean the Sternbach and Okuda variety. The Okuda and Sternbach variety, not the Pillar and Berman variety. Anyway, this is our book of the week. Just go to the Facebook page, get the Zoom ID and the password hint. Ping me if you don't get the hint. I'm just trying to protect against Zoom bombing. Facebook's page is Nonfiction Friday. Nonfiction Friday. And you can join us at 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern. And yeah, I know, it's 11 British summertime. There you go. Nonfiction Friday is at noon Saturday, 3 Eastern and 8 British summertime. So there. And of course, the Trek Files is up this week. After 5 seasons, we've got our founder of the network and Gene's son, Rod Roddenberry, finally on the show as a guest this week. It's now dropped. You can go listen to it right now. And of course, the paperwork, the only podcast with papers, is on Facebook too at the Trek Files. Or you can get it at podcast.roddenberry.com. That's easy to do. Everywhere else around the net before I take the break here and be right back. Just to let you know for now, at Larry Nemecek is the Twitter and the is the face at the YouTube. Come on, Larry. If you're on YouTube with me right now, that's where you are. So look around for some other archive. There's 10 years of archive interviewing there on switching to visual. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Facebook with me, that's the Instagram account. And of course, if you want to do more than just support Trekland here with Patreon, just come be a deep diver with us at portal47.net. Be at Portales. We've got a lot of them on here today. I look forward to jumping into the questions here in a second. That's it for right now, though. For those of you leaving us right now, as always, stay healthy out there. stay woke. I mean, in the broadest sense. Take no fake news wooden nickels. And most of all, everybody, trek well. And now, that's the break. Let's look at what's going on with the parrots. The Parrot Analytics, which is this system that we've been watching since the dawn of discovery, came out of New Zealand a few years before that, and they actually developed a method to use the internet to get some kind of measurement system to look at popularity of the streaming-only shows, the digital originals, because they don't give up any kind of rating number, the way we've always had the Nielsen's independently monitoring broadcast for years because of ad sales. That's all a moot. It's a new paradigm. We've been watching them. We've been watching them like a hawk. And their metric called average demand expressions. They do lots of countries. We've been watching the U.S. They occasionally report on others. It's a weekly thing they put out at their website, parrotanalytics.com. On the Insights tab, anybody can go look. I'm nothing special to them, but it's been helpful. Now, in the months and weeks when there's no new Star Trek, it's not as much interesting, but I try to I don't like dipping in and out after long periods. So, and I'm glad I didn't. It's some kind of a taking the pulse of a whole new emerging way of life that's new to a lot of us. Hopefully some of us out there are growing up with it. But this week they changed their reporting system. They're still measuring ADEs, average demand expressions, which is scouring the internet for all mentions, retweets, posts, videos, memes, blah, blah, blah. They're not just reporting the raw ADE now. They've come up with a new metric that starts with that. Every week they determine what the average point, or the mean, what an average series of any stripe looks like. And without telling you the ADE, they're factoring it through a filter, a multiplier, to say how many times more popular is this series than the average. So rather than seeing a horse race among the top 10, and then there's hundreds more below that, dozens at least, they've gone to a whole new ranking system. So this week, the digital originals are led by Stranger Things. Not on raw ADE, probably it's the same, but they're saying basically that they've looked at Stranger Things and it's 61 times more popular than the average series on television, streaming and not streaming. So here's our top 10 based as a multiple of, and they've also got the networks highlighted more, just to keep you up. The top networks are Netflix, 2 Disney's, 2 DC, 3 Netflix, Apple Plus, and then Netflix, if you want to just think about how this series are doing. Stranger Things at number 1, 61 times. I know this is a whole different apples to oranges way of what we've done since day one here. Somewhere, and I don't know if they're publicly reporting it, they're still recording the ADEs. They're giving you a different lens to look at it through. So now the top 10 as far as popularity compared to average series. Stranger Things, 61 times. Star Wars Clone Wars, 60.7 times. Stranger Things is clamoring, waiting on their 4th season rewatches. Star Wars and then Mandalorian, then Harley Quinn, then Titans, then Money Heist, Outer Banks, The Watcher, and then Defending Jacob, which is the Apple TV series that's a hit, and She-Ra and the Princess of Power from Netflix, which winds up at, in this new scale, 29.2 times more. So these are all vastly more popular than the average series on TV. It's just kind of interesting. I want to make sure you get it. So now they gave us just to compare on the overall scale. Looking at that one, mix of network and digitals only. SpongeBob is number 1 this week, and they tell you in the text copy here, it had 94.8, almost 95 million, ADEs, basic ADEs. Now, they're saying this week, the mean, not the angry, but the mean demand for a series in the U.S., here's your anchor point, 1.1 million. That's the mean. That's the average demand of a series. I wonder how far afield they're going from entertainment, including game shows and soap operas and news programs. I don't know. Worth a mention. But knowing that now, this week's mean is 1.1 million, and I hope they put that on these charts. SpongeBob had 94.8 ADEs this week, which translates in their new reporting figure. The popularity market average multiplier makes it 86.3 times more popular than the mean, the average series. It's 86.3 times more in demand than the average series. So that's what their new metric, which kind of makes a break. So looking at that, the ranking of the most in-demand shows ranked by ADDs versus a benchmark typical mean average show. SpongeBob, 86 times. Rick and Morty, 79 times more. Game of Thrones, wow, 75 more still. My Hero Academia, Riverdale, finally a digital original, Stranger Things and Clone Wars back-to-back. Then RuPaul's Drag Race, The Walking Dead, and SNL Saturday Night Live, winding up at 54.3 times more in demand. So that was a lot of gobbledygook, guys. I didn't want to just flip through these. This is the week ending Saturday, if you're new with us here. From Sunday to Saturday. It's actually Saturday to Friday because they take the day to compile them. So the first time out for Picard, there were only 2 days listed, so it instantly bolted in the second week. And they have trending figures that they do too. Yeah, so 2 digitals in the top 10 on more popular than the average show. Interesting system. Having the raw ADDs is something. The ADEs is something. All right, now we're going to do the only thing about our new setup here is I'm going to go look as close as I can at the combined chat. One thing to remember, and we had some folks very disappointed on Twitch last week, so yay, glad to be on Twitch. Just to know that whether you're on Facebook or YouTube or Twitch, and I said this at the beginning, you only see the questions from your platform. I get the combo here on Restream. So we're going to move a little closer. We're going to just glide up here with all the grace of a dead goose. Okay. And see what we've got here, okay? And go back to the beginning and see who's on with us. Hey, John Cowan from Syracuse, New York. And yes, I know it's not your first week. Got the regular gang here. Oh, Robert. I have been in my bubble for the last 2 or 3 hours. I did not know. So thank you, Robert, for the news. And I'm sure the rest of Connected World here is aware of this. R.I.P. Richard Hurd. What a sweet guy. Let me take a second to process that. Yes, I'll talk about the passing of Richard Hurd. What a sweet, humble guy. People knew him from V, and then he came to Trek World specifically by playing the real, the eventual Admiral Paris. Tom Paris's father through the last couple of seasons of Voyager with the Pathfinder arc. Huh. Wow. He had done he'd done tons of theater, but here in the last few years, the last 15 years or so, he had done a lot of productions. I just remember when Vaughn and the guys got the Enterprise Blues Band together, Richard played with them a few times on a makeshift bass, an old wash tub bass, the galvanized wash tub and a broom pole and a string, and tightening it up enough to actually have it, make sound if you amplified it. Of course, the wash tub amplified it. But I remember I've got pictures of Richard playing wash tub bass in the Enterprise Blues Band, much less all the enjoyment he got out of being with Star Trek fans the last few years. Sweet guy. And for many years, when we were doing Communicator, he would send me news bits along the way, and I'm sure I've got a photo or two over here of him that he sent along the way. Thank you, Robert. You guys keep me honest. Sometimes I get in the bubble. I think I'm doing a good deal scanning everything overnight. Hmm. Well, alrighty. Ah. Oh no, I didn't check audio. I didn't check audio. Does that mean my audio's been crap the whole time? Jesus. The checklist, the checklist. Oh well. I should be on camera though. I should be on this camera. Through a towel roll. And hi guys, here's my Twitch kids. Who am I talking to? Am I okay? Yeah. Uh, it's apparently if I'm going to be on Twitch, I need to say every 5 minutes that I can't see your questions until we go to questions. I guess. We'll get there. Hey, David Caps. Hey, Frank. All right. Okay, let's get back to our subject matter. Scott is saying everything about DSC. So Glenn said this seems to be something you've been watching for. Scott says everything about DSC's tonal shift, looks, sounds, feels darker. Although I'm hoping for more variation. And it is in the can. Yeah. Scott says, wonder if they're seeing that people want something brighter and feeling, oh, how are we going to deal with this? I think people were wanting something brighter 4 years ago, but the pandemic's really putting a laser focus on it, right? And yes, the second season was already shifting over there. That's one of our taglines for Life Support Live. Let's see if we can have a little fun along the way. Okay. Hey, Keith. Keith Cedar, ladies and gentlemen. The latest episode of the Treksperts Roundtable podcast drops tonight. Is that the one I was on? Is that where you're mentioning it? If so, thank you. Thank you for having me on. Oh, sorry, Rose. You can't get me on Facebook anymore. Okay, everybody else appears to be on Facebook. Karen. Hi, Karen. On Facebook for once. How do I think basically all of the filming, not the filing industry, I don't think that's what you meant. I think the filing industry is doing just fine. But the filming industry can go forward in a post-COVID world. Will it be 5 years before you see anything new? Well, there's billions of dollars riding on this. So aside from just our wants and expectations, there's people's jobs and careers, and people can't afford to lose 5 years in a career, much less their income can afford to lose it. Time marches on. No, we'll have things happen. I was reading some spec stories about we can't do exactly, even if we get a vaccine, what will, as we're saying with everything, what's going to stick from all this? What's going to be the residual after effect? A lot of things are, the entire world now is comfortable Zooming, so we'll see about that. It won't be 5 years before we see new product. They're talking about all the ways we've laughed and watched different one-offs of people trying to make fun of the Zoom grid, right, the Brady Bunch effect, and parody that. But there are people madly working to try to do, like we talked about Jeff Russo recording the orchestra remotely. We have technology. It's going to be expensive until people find ways and shortcuts to monetize that, to make it affordable. Because right now, doing things from home and combining is insanely expensive. Or maybe even having one or two crew people go to performers' homes, but using CGI in ways that doesn't sabotage the value of live performance. I don't know. Are we going to be in a tech upheaval, the same thing as sound hitting movies? I don't know. You know, Singing in the Rain, we remember it for the number and the music the Gene Kelly dance number. But Singing in the Rain was a musical that was all about the transition from silent movies to sound, and the people that couldn't make the transition, the tech, the crew, and the actors, and the new stars that came about because of it. Are we in the dawn of the bombshell of the talkies, and everything changed? I don't know. As far as virtual versus live performance and crew work and all of that, but it won't be 5 years. Something is going to give. The industry can't sustain. The audience demand can't sustain for 5 years. We will see. Yeah, Mark, the thing you hated from the very late 90s, early aughts was that gray-blue filter that Hollywood put over all of sci-fi fantasy films of the era. Yeah, because, everything was just darker. It's kind of like that bleached look, and that's how you know it was I want to say, I think we got that early with Generations. Nemesis. Well, Generations too, but that was the star going nova. I just didn't like it. But Nemesis, especially on the bleached out planet at the beginning, that all of B4's body parts were found on. Let's see here. Yeah. So we know. So Rebecca, yes. Now we know what ignored, 12-year-olds or 10-year-olds on Twitch do. Might explain a few things. I need to experiment with Twitch more to make sure that if I'm not live saying it, that I need to say every 5 minutes. That might get annoying to everybody on the normal platforms that got the idea and they're there for more than 3 seconds at a time. Hey, Stephanie Little Page on YouTube. Hey. Yes, Mark. Yes, Shirley Temple movies. I always go to the Busby Berkeley musicals, 42nd Street and We're in the Money. All the crazy, the overhead shot. The June Taylor Dancers took that. That was a thing. I was shocked when I was a kid to find out that there was the overhead dancing choreographed shot before June Taylor Dancers. They didn't invent that. That was all Busby Berkeley. The big, lavish spectacle. And, fire waterfall and those huge stage spectacles with water. And they got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Shirley Temple just got cuter and cuter and cuter until she got older and older and older. Yes. Absolutely nothing wrong with 42nd Street. Thank you, Linda, for the Plug for Life support. Yes, the tech manual this week. Glenn, that's very kind of you, Glenn. Academic studies. You played. Oh, congratulations, Scott. Hey, everybody. I agree, Frank. Frank says Trek thrives on the small screen, full-blown blockbuster movies watered down the basic concept. They shouldn't be competing with the Marvel movies. It's a totally different approach to fan fiction. Yes. Now, what's interesting, it's just hit me, and especially happened with TNG, which differently, the original series ensembleized in their movies where they had been a strict pecking order, billing order, if you think about it. The little 4, the little 5 got much more to do in the movies per minute than they did in most of the series. Opposite with Next Generation. The ensemble fell into a billing order based on draw clout, I guess. And what's funny is we've kind of returned to, the Marvel movies are huge on ensemble when it's an ensemble movie and not one of the one-offs. So I would think that would be something that was cushioned, that people would be smarter about. We wouldn't watch the trap of, hopefully we're protected from that trap of billingizing, lead, second banana, everybody else, losing the ensemble approach to a movie. Hopefully we'll be doing that. That's one good thing. But yes, the thing about how many different space battles can we cram into one movie is definitely not the way for Trek. And maybe that's what the fact that most fans, I think, liked Beyond or thought it was their favorite of the 3 movies, and it did the least at the box office. There's a conundrum to figure out. Okay, very fun. Yeah, R.I.P. Richard. Um, he very much was, Glenn. Loved talking to the fans. And he was there last year. Uh, and now I'm sitting here wondering if I've got any pictures. See, it's like, guys, don't take the people you're closest to are the people that you, I don't want to say take advantage of, that you may not treasure the little moments with. Always try to make sure that you've got the bases covered with everybody, even the people that you see, not every day, but the people that you see often. Yeah. That Star Trek movie. Oh, Bradley. How far back do you go with me? Have you ever heard me talk about Star Trek? Yeah. Hey, Clayton. Hey, some YouTubers. Yay. Okay, well, thank you, Clayton. I'm just glad to be on YouTube. I'm really on YouTube more for the after than for the live. And the reason I started going to a break in the middle was because no one on YouTube watches things for an hour and a half. Even football game highlights get cut down to 60 minutes or less, the actual clock time. So, yes. But thank you for being here live. It's going to be on there live, so it's easier to be native for when I chop them down. Yeah, he was a Klingon on yes, on Birthright. Yes, yes. All right. Well, Alan, so Anime Fest canceled in August 2020. Well, get on the list. Get on the list. Hey, Trek on the Tube. Hey, hey. Rebecca says, Will Wheaton was talking about hearing they're filming The Bachelor by quarantining the whole crew at a rented resort and no one will be able to leave. Well, you know, the reality shows ought to be the first ones, the biggest ones to be able to pivot and use this as a plot device for something. We'll see. We will see. Thank you, Rebecca. I will probably do that then as we get into it. And we should do that for Life Support Live as well. Although we're kind of, Life Support Live's format is to dip into questions constantly. Ooh, we're getting into cinema here, Clayton. You're bringing a new dimension here to Tuesday's Live. A little Danteism here with Gremlins, and I guess I went there, though, with Busby Berkeley. Scott says, sometimes I don't know what the Generation cinematographer was thinking. I've just gone blank on his name. Matt Leonetti? No, that was First Contact. The Enterprise is lit so darkly, there are multiple scenes in which doors open in complete pitch black darkness. Yeah, they were so obsessed with filming the D cinematically. They were so obsessed with it not looking TV bright lit. I mean, they made all the changes to the bridge module were so that it would fit a widescreen. You could light it and shoot it, and it wouldn't look cartoony, and it wouldn't look, patently cheap on a big screen. And I know it was supposed to be the Amargosa Sun approaching nova status. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and ballooning. And they're close to it. So it's coming in all the natural ports, like the ready room window or light 10 forward. But yeah, it's just like we have to shoot this like a movie, so it has to look way different than TV, and it wound up ruining. I mean, it just feels dreadful. It just feels like they smeared mud over the lens. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Hi, Bradley Saunders. All of our new YouTube family is on. I know everybody on Facebook is going, who are you talking to, Larry? Yes. Glenn says Beyond's failure at the box office was due to fallout from the first two movies. Yes, they'd lost the oomph of something new by then. Lack of marketing. Yes. It was also very rushed. Remember, they were compressed. They threw out the first script. They got rid of Orsi's team. Kurtzman had left. They had split their writing partnership, but it was Orsi's script and team. They'd left, and poor Simon and Young, we did this before. Their was like rush to shoot, and that not only rushed the film, but it gave promotion a lot. That whole May 20th event was a Hail Mary pass to try to jumpstart the promotional effort for it in 2 months. Even with the oomph of the 50th anniversary, you would think they had that writing for them. But you say, a much lesser extent, anger at CBS Paramount over the way they treated the fan films. I got to tell you, Glenn, I got to tell you guys, I mean, that was could have been a thing within the fan film circle, but the fan film circle is like the orbit of, I don't know, an asteroid compared to Jupiter. It's like the fan film world. I mean, I wish it was bigger. It was sizable. It made everybody involved in fan films feel good. It was such a a very minuscule piece of the overall film market, much less the overall Trek market. Oh, yay, I'm over 100 messages today. Tim says, how do I think this experiment with multiple streaming networks and services at the same time is going, Larry? Well, between this and the lessons we're getting from Live Sport Live, I know that I need a bot on Twitch to tell the kids, don't worry, I'm not insulting you every 5 minutes, apparently. Nadim, hi Nadim, are you new to our Facebook? Nadim says, does any Twitcher actually know what Star Trek is? Well, some of our folks here have Twitch accounts, so technically yes, but technically that's the point. Technically, granted that we can keep them from getting pissed and running away when no one's paying attention to them, because that's the nature of the rest of Twitch. I guess part of what Twitch is the really popular Twitch live streamers. There's 47,000 people, 4,700? 470 people in their streams. If you've got a popular Twitch program, you can't possibly keep up and talk to it. You can't do what I'm doing right now. For one thing, it's flying by, and a talker will occasionally glance over and see if something catches their eye. And I guess maybe the appeal for the really insane everyday Twitchers is, oh, maybe I'll be the person that I'll say something and that'll catch their eye. Like they live for that, I guess. And so some people want to be talked to, and they don't look for the ones with 47,000 in the chat room watching live. They look for the shows that have 4 or 5 or 6, I guess. And so when they get there, they expect to be talked. Maybe it's a heightened expectation, so it's a double whammy, and they feel insulted and slighted. If they didn't come in with knowledge or forethought, if they didn't go there intentionally knowing. So in these early days, if they're stumbling into Twitch, which is what happens, it's the nature of that platform, so sometimes trying to force all these into the same container is a little weird, but that's part of learning the way. And I'm not native. This isn't a native Twitch show. We're not on Twitch set up just for Twitch. So I'm trying to cover bases. But yeah, I'm really hoping when we do it right, and I'm not driving people away, that we can start reaching out to, and as Star Trek, hey, when Lower Decks and when #NickTrek hit the world, and we may see some Twitch activity with some actual Trek programming on Twitch, some shows on Twitch, some channels, and maybe there'll be more of that happening. Again, thank God for finally having some animated series back. I'm so excited for that. We'll see. I haven't thought until just this moment about the impact in Twitch world of Star Trek animation, but I bet something will be there, and we'll see. And when they're there, by golly, Trekland Tuesdays Live and Live Support Live will be there to pick up the crumbs. We'll see. Anyway, otherwise, I'm enjoying having new folks on YouTube, and I'm enjoying finally going to be able to edit these down and have them, because far more people archive, obviously, on YouTube than on Facebook. Facebook is not where people go for old video. It's where they go for live. And I love you guys that have been with me since the beginning, or along the way. Show 156, everybody. No more reality. Hey, Trek on the Tube. And guys, he has a podcast, so you can check it out if you couldn't tell. If you don't know it already. I think streaming is going to take over the world even more so than it is now, but I can only hope one day we'll get one streaming platform that unites all content. Oh, One streamer to rule them all? Is that what you're saying? Okay. Oh, Bradley, I missed your setup here. At least 25 years. You're Bradley on YouTube. I need to start saying the platform, don't I? I need to start saying the platform. If I don't say a platform, it's Facebook, guys. Okay? For now, I will try to remember everybody on YouTube that way. And if we have any more Twitchers jumping in, then we'll say that. Oh, Mark says, within the last week, you've had 2 groups of people tell you that they've used the quarantine time to subscribe to CBS AA and started watching Discovery and Picard. Don't you love the way things are lumped together? Discovery and Picard. We've had 3 years of people separating them madly. And now it's more boxes on the shelf. Welcome to the world of watching people lump Enterprise, Discovery, Voyager, and Next Gen all together. It's just more boxes on the shelf. More icons on the row. Yeah. Frank says, Frank Costantini, did I hear the latest rumor they may be developing a Kirk and Spock series? Sounds a little like overkill to me. Oh, with the Castellane supposed casting and all that. And well, if they're going to get any mileage out of a Pike series, they can't spin off. If they're going to have Peck, if you're going to have Peck play Spock, they're going to have overlapping. He's going to play a little younger with Pike and a little older with young Kirk. Yeah, that does seem like overkill. That may just be the rumor, running amok. I feel like it's 1975 again. And I'm going, really, guys? Can we do Star Trek without Kirk and Spock? Can we please do another Star Trek without Kirk and Spock? There's so much Star Trek that's out there to be explored. Daniel Adams. Charlie Booker. Hey, Daniel. Charlie Brooker, who wrote Dark Mirror, did a one-off where the cast of Big Brother survived a zombie outbreak because they were sealed in the house. There you go. Hey, Tate. Mud instead of lens flares. I know. So you're saying it's like one extreme or the other? I can't have it both ways? Yeah. Trek on the Tube on YouTube says, I really hope Noah Hawley is able to make his movie. Yes. He's got a track record. I wanted to see Tarantino Trek just for the hell of it. I was hoping Tarantino Trek would bust the paradigm wide open the way that Next Generation busted open the paradigm that Star Trek is just Kirk, Spock, McCoy on the 1701. We didn't realize at the time that's what it would do. I don't think Gene realized that's what it would do. But within 3 or 4 or 5 years, they got it. And I was hoping that would happen too, that we could have an anthology approach to cinema Trek, not always think in terms of cast franchises. So yes, Noah Hawley comes in with plenty of cred, and I hope it happens. You would think if he's the last guy standing right now after the reconciliation, the remarriage, that he's in the best place. And, he's got Jeff Russo in his corner, the composer, and they're friends. Mark says, when Beyond came out, it was a major problem. It was in an odd time slot. Well, props to them for trying to get a 50th anniversary movie going. That may have been half the motivation to survive the upheaval of tossing out Orsi's script and going with this, and watching the time clock and knowing that they only had a certain amount of time. Movies don't have time. TV shows are usually what we think of as having time slots, like in a night. It premiered at Comic-Con San Diego. Star Trek was all over STCC that year in 2016 because it was the 50th. It was the hugest footprint ever for Trek, because Trek missed the Comic-Con. Comic-Con became a big thing it was growing and bigger, and individuals went down there. But, Star Trek was in the fallow years by 2005, and Twilight came out 3 or 4 years later, and that's when Comic-Con San Diego exploded. Yes. Rose, I think I do remember you in 2017 at STOV in your wheelchair giving little roses to people. That was sweet. I think I do remember you, yes. Hey, Blaze. Replying to Frank, no, but you heard they wanted to cast someone for Kirk. Yes. Tate, I know a lot of people that would not have known about the fan film situation. I know. It's nothing about fan film folk. Anybody that gets when you're so into your own world, in your own bubble, we say that negatively a lot of times, in your own world, you forget that the whole world doesn't know. But the upside of that is it's amazing to still find people say that are just now finding Star Trek Continues. People at least once a week, someone says, "I just saw you playing McCoy on the first one, and I love this show." And it's if that happened, it's speaking of Richard. R.I.P. Richard Hurd today, if you didn't hear. It just happened. People had no idea about him, and they stumble into the last couple of seasons of Voyager. And he's there. He's there for all time. Just like some people, when they're alive, think it's the curse of cinema, because everybody sees how you looked. If you're a long-time performer, people see how you looked when you were 15 or 20 or 25. And now you're 70, and it's a curse. But actually, it's such a blessing, because we have people at their prime all along through their life. And a lot of performers, they get better with age, like a fine wine. But if nothing else, we see them all. We have years and years and years of their performances, and they never go away. That's kind of the mystery and the magic and the weirdness of TV and film, right? I know a lot of actors and actresses may think it's a curse in their day, but eventually I think they come around to sing. It's their fandom is always fresh. It's certainly doing that. There you go. Don't watch the chat for Critical Role. It's too fast. Yes. Shield of Tomorrow was originally on Twitch, a group playing Star Trek Adventures. Yes, there you go. See, it's kind of like, talk to Mike McMahon about this. He sold a book off of his Twitter channel. The 8th season, Warp, the 8th season of Next Generation. Wacky new platform, shit my dad says. It was a one-season sitcom with Shatner off of a Twitter account. So here's the new hot thing. Pulling interesting Twitch scenarios into whatever. Trek on the Troop says he's so hyped about Mormons. Oh, no, wait, LDS. That must be Lower Decks. This is why I don't want to use LDS for the Lower Decks. I keep going to LDK. And I know S is the last letter, so, all the effort that we won't need to input on SNW is going to go to LDS. As long as you don't mean LSD. I know. Prodigy's supposed to be the name. It's been leaked a million times. I don't want to officially use it, but yeah. And the very thing is it's been pushed off so long they may yet change the name. If there's any parents actually still watching what their kids watch, there's a few. I think the entire fan film audience watches what their kids watch. It's about the same size group in overall population. Thank you, Tim. Over 150 episodes on TTO. Yeah, I wish we'd celebrate. The 150th happened right in the middle of the pandemic, and what I'm doing now is what I wanted to ballyhoo for the 150th, and just things didn't cooperate, including the supply chain for webcams. Glenn says, if someone could combine the chat of Facebook, the video quality of YouTube, and the user-friendliness of Twitch, they'd have the ultimate streaming platform. Yes, or the USP. To me, it's all Star Trek. Dad likes us the best. Very funny, Rebecca. Some saying Scotty should be in Strange New Worlds. Oh, he could come along later. The transporter chief in the cage was named Chief Pitcairn. His name was never said. Whether he was the chief engineer or just the transporter chief, that's a thing. You didn't see the engineer chief in the briefing room scene in the cage. A lot of good guys. Keep your internal conversations going here. Well, Tim, Scotty and McCoy were the oldest among the regular cast. and their characters were the oldest on the regular. I don't think they were the oldest crew. There might have been a tie. You know, Giotto, who was the security chief in Devil in the Dark, he looked to be about the same age of McCoy and Scotty. Jerry Taylor, bless her heart, 4th, 5th, 6th season, you watch Next Generation going along, she increasingly had not young models. Everybody wanted attractive people in those uniforms. But at one point she said, guys, we've got to have, it's okay to have 50-year-old ensigns. Especially when you had, Barclay couldn't be the only 40-year-old Lieutenant JG on the ship. You had to have some older serving people, especially with specific skills. So good for her for bringing gray-headed people to the extras casting in the later years of Next Gen. Trekland 2. I still hate how people defend the mediocre first season of DSC by saying people hated TNG when that started, now they love it. Because the first seasons of TNG are all still mediocre. Yeah, you can love it. You can say, well, that was my growing phase, my growing pains. And that's what I've tried to do from the beginning. People that, and they're all short seasons. They didn't even have the chance to mature as much. I mean, Discovery has only barely done the first season of Next Gen. They haven't done, what, 15 and 13? That's 28. That's 2 more than the first season of Next Gen. So think of it in your years. Yeah, Narda, and I hardly think Strange New Worlds is opening up the universe. I mean, to me, it was barely next door to that. But I've said it a million times, I would have loved to see that April series launch the Enterprise. But I want Romulan War and the Federation, and I want a midway Kirk Picard, and I want a midway Archer Kirk. It seems that the Tarantino has dropped the idea. I'm sure if Paramount went back and waved some money in his face, maybe things would get set up again. But we'll see. Yes. Hey, Roberts on Facebook. Hey, Clayton. Clayton saying you really miss Star Trek Continues, wish you'd gone on, and think that the series could be revived. Yeah. The reality of that is, depending on fan funding, I said this all the years of the aughts, the minute that actual Star Trek on-screen canon Hollywood production comes back, I mean, the fan films exploded for 2 things. One, the malaise around Hollywood Trek. Enterprise was sadly just losing audience eyeballs. But also the YouTube revolution. That you could make a movie on your laptop, and that as opposed to the first couple of episodes, people could download it and watch it without spending 2 weeks trying to do an act of a time over dial-up modems. Those 2 things together exploded the fan film, the market for that, the potential for that. And I knew the minute that real Star Trek filming came back in Hollywood or Toronto, that the air would all go out of the room for fan funding, the attention span and the money. The hardcore Continues bunch might still do that. But there's that, and then there's the practicality of getting all of that group. A lot of our people are, I say older. I don't mean they're decrepit, but I mean they're older. Their lives have changed. They've gone back. The things in life have altered, upwards and downwards and sideways. Young kids that were in our crews are older and have different lives now. And a lot of the people that were on camera have moved on with their lives. So, and that was already shifting by the end. It's the same thing that happens with any show. Money makes things happen. And if the money is drying up, even with all the passion in the world, people, if you're depending on people's personal situations, maybe one, but I don't see you cranking out a slew of them without a whole new batch of people involved and a for sure financial footing. There's just a lot of structural and human issues there to get around that are all it'll be Dr. Piper before McCoy either way. Strange New World. Well, we hope. Yes, true. especially if this is after, or somebody in between Piper and McCoy. If McCoy came with Kirk. We've seen Colt already as an alien. I hope they get that figured out. Right, a younger Scotty who says he's been on a million ships. I would love to see someone play Dr. Boyce. Boyce had all the initial characteristics of McCoy. I mean, he's right there. The bartender is, McCoy bringing Kirk his Finnegan's Folly, known from here to Orion. Anyway. Robert, any news about Star Trek Vegas? No, it's technically all full speed ahead, all ships forward. We will see what happens. It's also 2 months away, right? 2.5 months away. We will see. Yeah, yes, Glenn. Between Phase 2 New Voyages and Star Trek Continues, over 2 million views and a lot of repeats, especially with these watch parties during Corona time. God bless them. Yeah. Wait, what's a reference to Star Trek 4? Oh, see, this is the problem. Truck on the Tube. You got to tell me what the reference was. Tim, when I first started TT, we're having the 150th episode today, apparently. When I first started TTL, did I expect it to last this long, and what have I learned and experienced over these years? Well, I started it, to be on camera myself, live, thinking on my feet with a topic, because I was trying to build the brand that way. I was always a word guy. It was going to be a while with the Wrath of Khan documentary. And all the video that I had put out was 5 seconds of me interviewing somebody in guerrilla style, which I'm very proud of a lot of those videos. There's a lot of good stuff there. I've got tons of them still to put up. Scott Day is going to shoot me if I don't put some of his client actors up eventually before the next millennium changes. But that's it. I mean, just technically. The tech skills of getting up with it. I mean, I didn't think about joining the streaming generation. I really did it to get me out there to people who might want me to do hosting and live events, which has started to happen. But it was basically a sense of the world is going visual. YouTube had become a thing. YouTube was not just a free server for your videos, for your blog anymore. It was its own thing. And Trek on the Tube is laughing at me here. So yeah, it was a thing to catch up on several fronts. The big thing, though, of doing live was I didn't have time to do editing. I didn't have the facilities to do editing. These guys that do the 50 million insert clip, happy joke, da-da-da, and pull the clips out, that's exhausting. And that's all they do all day long. And then they're scripted, and I can write a script. And a lot of them are faceless. And it's like, you know what? I can make points. I've talked in public enough. I've organized enough writing. I can work from a points and do live action talking. Now, there's a whole art to, talking, like where you don't do horrible live action things, and that's the thing that anybody talking live needs to watch out for, that an edit can get rid of, and the clip style edit that we have now gets around a lot of that, where you're not doing 5 takes. You take what you got, and you cut out the gaps, and you move it, and you also make it more concise for the YouTube generation that can't watch anything more than 5 minutes, much less bop into a strange Twitch room for more than 30 seconds without being talked to. But that's it. I didn't know how long it would go. I didn't think about that. But I knew it was something that I needed to do that checked off a lot of things, that was doable, and checked off a lot of things on the list to do. The main thing was it had to be doable. I sit down, I do it live, I futz with it a little bit to archive it, and it's done. Don't have to think about it anymore. What I really need to do is transcribe them, because now I want to go back and find when I said something and go, I said this back 2 years ago, kind of a thing. But thanks for asking. Yes, I've learned a lot, much less learned to all of you all. This is great to communicate with. I like on Life Support Live having the Skype cam where people can actually come on like a real show and have guests come on camera. I could do that if I was on my personal Facebook page, but not on a business page. Facebook doesn't let you do it. And now that we've gone multi-stream, it's a moot point. That's the one thing I'd still love to have, is to have people on with me to talk and banter with. Let's see. When you first... Oh, we've done that. Hey, Richard. When you remember Richard Hurd from T.J. Hooker. Yes. As well as V, right? He was a great actor back then. His Star Trek appearances were excellent. Also, he will be very much missed. Yeah. Scott, how about LOW? How about low? You know what? Low sounds as horrible as void to me. So I guess not. I guess not. No, I was toying either LWD, which W is just a mouthful to say. When you pronounce the acronym, LWD versus... I still like LDK, which I know is one letter away from IDK, but SNW is one letter away from SNL. So, you know, we're going to have to deal with it. Watch out for the typos and the autocorrect on that one, guys, when we hit midstream on it. Star Trek AOL. Star Trek AOL. Funny Glenn, yes. He had one too many Mormon women. Yeah. Hey, Karen. Just a thought. I wonder if you could seriously animate something like Discovery or Picard for one season. And I think your operative word there is seriously. In other words, like write a 1-hour dramatic script and just animate it. Ooh. As a fill-in for Corona time. Well, about the time they got... Look how long it's taken the animation to get together on a modern... situation for Lower Decks and hashtag Nick Trek. By the time they got animation set up for Discovery or Picard, the Corona crazy would be tailing off, and they would be itching to have live action people back at it. Although, and I don't want to be morbid, if there was some aspect of Picard that felt like it was worth looking at in 10 or 20 years, say, or any of the shows could take a serious animated redo, and we wonder how that would look. You can't Archerize everything. And I mean Archer, not Jonathan Archer. Could be, though. Could be, as you say. Hey, Truck on the Tube, busting in here from YouTube. What are your thoughts about the Enterprise bridge from DSC and engineering they showed in short treks? I dislike them both. My bet is you're fine with the bridge, but hope they rework engineering. I'm not happy with the DS. I know everybody loves it because it's so glossy and black. And look, it's red, so it must be the Enterprise. I mean, the biggest single thing is that exterior subway tunnel around the outside. You come on the bridge, and the access corridor behind the consoles that got retconned in through the blueprints. But it was in an access corridor. It wasn't, you didn't come on the bridge and then be able to like dart around and run behind everybody's consoles and run out in front of the view screen and surprise everybody without walking straight through the bridge. That makes sense. That's disappointing. And I got a rant this week on Life Support Live, of all places, about glass, or let's say transparent aluminum. The view screens being glass, which started with Star Trek 09. Gene's whole point was to get across to the audience that those were not just see-through panes made out of whatever the hell material, that it was an imager, which was much more high-tech than it being just a simple thing to look through. And yes, I know we've seen the Kelvin screens, and we've seen the Discovery and the Picard screen. Well, at least Discovery, probably Picard. We've seen overlays. We've seen the graphic overlays, and that's cool. That makes sense. But because you're wanting information, and we're just presenting information in the best ways to present it to people, to make it understandable. But this whole thing about that, because they love, it's only for one thing, they love that outside shot, pan, or the ship approaches, or they pan across the bridge module, and they look in, and now we can push in through the glass right into people's faces. You know, the Cage did that in the very first damn, you know, the camera went through the sensor dome, you know, that famous classic shot that was redone, improved a little bit for the Blu-rays. That wasn't a realistic thing. That was totally a creation of the camera angle. It was part of the storytelling. It was not part of, there's not a hatch in the upper sensor dome that somebody's point of view could climb through and go down. I mean, if you blew a hole in the sensor dome, but if you did that, people wouldn't all be calmly sitting at their consoles. That was one thing. That was narrative point of view storytelling. I just hate the glass view screens, because that's exactly what Gene didn't want. Because a view screen that was manipulable with information, aft view, quarter view, side view, half speed, quarter speed, we get this Hulk moving, we can do something. That was much more futuristic. And now we'd say, well, it's clear and manipulable, and that's the most high-tech of all. Okay, yeah. I'm not hung up on what Gene would have wanted, but that was always a thing about Star Trek that was different. Saucer and two nacelles. That was different. And not having the main view screen be just a hole in the wall was always something different. Okay, enough of that. And I can't even remember the engineering set. I probably didn't like it if you don't think I liked it. Oh, and the short treks engineering. Yeah. I need to go back. You know, the original series engineering grew mysteriously. Where'd that ladder come from? Where are the big floor units this week? Yeah. Linda, you saw older crew in early next gen? Okay. I just remember it became a thing. Okay. Look at those first few episodes of TNG. Yes. Tate says, I want a Starbase show. Yeah. There's been a lot of clamor for, how about a West Wing Federation show to show the machinations of the politics? And you can get you could talk about world building and culture building and seeing Tellarites finally. And a lot of new species. And seeing some, now with our budget and CG capacity, how about some non-humanoid, non-bipedal, bumpy forehead alien races too? That would be awesome. And you'd only have to show 1 or 2 or 3 of them because they'd be ambassadors. It would be like the Xindi table times, I don't know about times 100, but it would, and it would sure be, it would be an update to the poor Federation Council, which was trying to do so much, and it was awesome. But the poor Federation Council scene where everybody's supposed to just line up in rows on 2 sides of a grand alley that's meant for cinema. And then we got all the ideas here. Mark, a ship or a base whose goal was to colonize a planet within the frontier. Yes. I'm losing track of... everybody arguing about first and second season next gen. That's cool. Yes. Okay, now I'm so far behind. Seriously. Oh, Tim, now that's interesting. That might be your Caprica for Star Trek. A series set entirely on Earth, show Earth of the future, how and why it was this utopia. Tim replying to Tate. That would be on Facebook. That would be interesting and very hard and difficult and all, yes, we have the budget to do it now. Gene stayed away because of censors and commercials and not wanting to favor one government over the other in 300 years. But you might combine these. If the Federation is meeting in San Francisco, and if the president's office is still in Paris, and you're bopping between those realms, and you saw pieces of San Francisco in Picard, we have some landscapes. If it wasn't just about, oh, here's life on Earth, but it was that West Wing-ified Federation show, then obviously you would have, things would be happening on Earth. And you could get into talk. You could have, because I've always wanted to see a novel, and now we could do a series. It's too big for a movie. About what everybody else thinks about the Federation being so human-centric, being so Terran-centric, and is there tension there? I would love to see that played out as a big plot. Okay, now I'm missing the setups. Oh, I know LDS for Lower Decks is I know LDS is a reference to Star Trek 4. I know that. It was a joke. I was just not wanting, but in real life, a lot of people don't know LDS is a Star Trek joke. But when an LDS series is promoted that way to the general public, a lot of people are going to have to get over a Mormon thing. And even once they know it's Star Trek, they'll have to still get that taste out of their mouth. Yes, Rebecca, I see your medical pattern there. More transparent than aluminum. You could basically, it's what we always said about Star Trek one-off shows, and I really, this has been a great question thread, guys, but this is getting insane because I was mostly quasi on time today, and we're running so late. They used to brag, original series and Next Gen and all the series, about how you could do almost any tone of show. You know, do a comedy, do a drama, do a family show, do an adventure, do a high concept, do a medical, do a police procedural, do a legal courtroom show. I mean, Star Trek has handled all those tones. Now, I don't know about doing it week after week after week. Could you Perry Masonize Star Trek? Could you ER-ify Star Trek? Rebecca's saying yes, yes, yes. I don't know. Could you... people, I've seen the memes. I've seen the parodies for Law and Order Special Federation Unit. You know, Dick Wolf would have to sign off on that, I guess. Great conversations going here, guys. Mm-hmm. Oh, Prodigy was an AOL competitor. Oh, you're right. Get it now. Got it. A dead AOL competitor now. Oh, Truck on the Tube. We think alike. Hate transparent screens. It is that. Yes. I hate it, but I'm a realist. I'm clinging to the bridge module idea till the day I die. I have one overarching Uber theory that I'm waiting to hatch until the right time. But I'm not going to mention it now because I'm still hoping to see what things evolve. A theory. It's just a retcon theory. It's for my own inner peace and sanity. Okay, well, we obviously got the college Trek debated out here. And yes, Tim, Harv Bennett's script, he was actually upset about Star Trek 09. Ooh, that's interesting. Clayton's got a great idea. Clayton, over on YouTube, so I'm going to make sure and say this. Clayton George says, if I could do a Star Trek series that no one has done before, I'd do one from the criminal's point of view. A 3-part with Harry Mudd, a 2-part with Cyrano Jones, tales of crime syndicates, Orion and otherwise. That would, you know, if you wanted down the line, and of course Harry and Cyrano would have comedic overtones. I don't know so much about the Orion syndicate bit there. Or criminal syndicates that would exist around the edges, that would be the rough edge. If you had the faction of audience that still needed some dystopianism served up with their root beer, that would be the way to go. And you could still have the influence of the Federation, you know, nibbling around the edges and the good guys. Let's see. Yeah, and Mores as live action CG. Uh, Anna has gone to Twitch. Okay, hospital call. Balana, Balana and Tom as ship races. They have a few kids and whatnot. Oh, the whatnot sounds interesting. Yep. Hey, I found a new. Ooh, have I started a new underground subversive hashtag here? What do we say? Kill the bridge windows? What do we say? No glass? No glass, no glass. CSI Starfleet. Okay. There we go, guys. Look, been a great discussion today. It's only been about 12 of us, I think, hanging on here to the end. We certainly ran off the Twitch crowd. There's probably little signs in some Twitch technology that say, stay away from this moron, this old guy. I don't know. But it's time to wrap things up. I want to thank you guys for the conversation. It all hopefully got some things going there. I know I spun a few wheels earlier on. I'm going to have to get used to the idea that when I come up close for questions, that this is what we do. I'm gonna back off if it's not too much trouble again. There we go, kids. Hey, once again, just quick reminder, this week, the Trekland, the Nonfiction Friday is the, are we there? We're right there, yes. We got the Next Generation Tech Manual. Tell your friends, share it. One thing that's going to help, guys, no matter where you are, it's the old trite YouTube phrase, like and subscribe on YouTube. Go over, if you've got a Twitch account, go over and friend me. It's really funny. But yes, go like and subscribe. And go join all these Facebook pages so you know what's happening. Nonfiction Friday is probably going to go just a few more weeks, but I want to make sure and try to cram in some great classic nonfiction books and let everybody geek out a little bit on Friday. We seem to be coming out of the Corona crazy. Maybe. We'll see. But that's Nonfiction Friday on the Facebook page, okay? We got it? Yay. Life Support Live is Saturday, right? With Dr. Ali Matu and I. This week's, we're voting. Go over to the Facebook page. Join the Facebook page if you haven't already. And we're voting on the theme for this week. There's 4 up there. You can add your own and then pop in with us at noon Saturday Pacific, 3 Eastern, 8 o'clock British summertime. On Saturdays, not competing with your evening bunch, okay? Once again, I want to thank all of our Patreons, our live wires, and our TTL clubbers. There we go. Everybody, thanks again, guys. We are gradually getting there with everything. The Corona got in the way, unfortunately. But there you go. Again, this week, for the first time, yay, we've got Rod on the Trek Files. His first time, finally. We even have fun at the ending with the end credits, too. So it's the Trek Files on Facebook, along with the Doc of the Week, going back to the roots of Trek and talking about parallel worlds. And the word diversity is nowhere in the original Trek pitch. Check it out. Podcast.roddenberry.com is the professional podcatcher place. Otherwise, if you're with us still on YouTube, check out the rest of my channel. It's the same thing for Twitter, Larry Nemecek. And if you're with us on Facebook, it's the same for Instagram, stories and or posts. Someday I'm going to run a poll as to how many people posts versus stories on Instagram, because I think Star Trek and sci-fi is way behind what the regular Instagram world is. That's my theory. And Portal47.net. Pay attention. We're going to have another Portal special this weekend. You can jump in any time, but you might want to be paying attention on Friday and Saturday for a Corona time special. That's it, guys. I think there's, pay attention. There's all kinds of cool stuff happening virtually right now. We may come out of this and people may be very nostalgic for all the crazy virtual events that happen. We may stick with 10% of them. But for right now, the 25th anniversary Voyager big hoo-ha special with all the conventions being wiped out is online. It's on the port. I think Marina's left a, well, our 47ers, it's on our page too there. I think it's on my Trekland Tuesdays page also, or my regular Larry's Trekland page where you're watching right now. Check out, I'm trying to post all the virtual events that come up as they do. There's more to come. There's more to come. The agents, the cons, the actors themselves are getting into it. We may look back on this as the great golden era of self-streaming. Or not. We'll just have to see. We'll just have to see. Yes, apparently we are in a big pivot. It's us, and it's the big world at large, too. Us and Trek and the big world at large, too. It'll be fascinating to see if it's not just a tech pivot, but if it's a mood pivot as well. So, guys, thank you across all of the Trekland platforms today. Yeah, even you guys on Twitch. Just stay healthy, as I said. Stay woke. Wide definition. Most of all,